Welcome back, everybody. This is Tyler Weeb from Pro Physique, and today we're going to be talking about reverse dieting. So essentially, we're going to go over kind of an overview of what a reverse diet should look like. So if you are unfamiliar with the term reverse diet, what a reverse diet is the slowly adding of calories in over time. So you might do this for a variety of reasons. Probably the main reason is, you wanting to build muscle. So how do we build muscle? Well, we build muscle by increasing calories, or, you want to get stronger. That is going to help a lot. Another scenario you might use it in is if you are a chronic dieter. So if you have spent the majority of, I don't want to say your life, but the majority of your time dieting, and you're just having a very hard time continually losing weight. It's because that you have dieted too much and you have not given your metabolism a chance to build back up. And so you might get into a reverse diet to go into a metabolic building phase where we are essentially not resetting the metabolism, but just allowing the metabolism to recover from just such a long period of dieting. So those are a couple scenarios that you would probably go into reverse, or, kind of in the same vein as, you want to diet, but you maybe just aren't consuming enough calories to actually go into a diet. So to diet down and lose body fat, we're going to do one of two things when the body plateaus. We're going to decrease calories and or increase cardio. So if we are starting off a diet with, let's say, only 100 grams of carbs, that's not a lot of carbs to take from, or, 100 grams of carbs and, let's say, 55 grams of fat. We typically don't really want to get below 25%, 20% total calories of fat, because we start to see some health issues along with that. So if someone comes to me with those type of macronutrients, I'm going to suggest spending a bit of a time in a reverse diet to get those calories back up before we look at a dieting phase, because we're typically going to take about 10 to 15% every time we plateau. So that equates to about roughly 20 to 30 grams of carbs, 5-ish grams of fat every time. And so if we have that, and we have the current macronutrients that I just talked about, you can see where calories, carbs, fats can get quite low pretty fast. So that is typically not something that I always recommend, and that we spend time in reverse. So how much food do we typically add during a reverse? Well, it does depend on the person and how their body reacts week to week. So that's why we do these week to week check-ins. So I typically go no more than 10 grams of carbs and 2 grams of fat a week. And that's typically if we are staying stable throughout, or we are actually dropping weight, right? So that is possible that as we are building up the metabolism, some people do tend to drop weight a little bit, also because, body composition is changing. They're increasing their energy output if they have been, not as active as when we, first start. And so usually we can be a little more aggressive. And depending on the person, though, it might be only 5 grams of carbs, or some weeks we'll only do 5 grams of fat, just to make sure that we are getting the percentages and the ratios of carbs and fats a lot better, because, again, 5 grams of fat usually is taken away when we are decreasing calories, and so we want to make sure that we are staying well above, that 20% of total calories when we eventually do start dieting. Plus, fats do aid in digestion as well as hormone health. Now, again, depending on the person, we might even get a little more aggressive if they're okay with putting on some more body fat. We can get, 15 grams of carbs a week with 5 grams of fat. But typically, most people don't really want to put on a lot of body fat while we are increasing calories. And so that's why we do tend to do it a little bit slower, and if we see the weight jump up a little bit, throughout the week, well, we can hold steady and we don't have to add calories in. We can let the body adjust to the current caloric intake, and then if we level back out, then we can continue to start adding. Now, how long should you reverse? The great thing about this is that you can do it as long as you want. And again, as long as you are okay with putting on some amounts of body fat, we can increase calories, for however long that person really wants. Now, we are going to get to a point where body fat is going to probably really start getting put on, so we need to make sure that that person is okay with that. Because you are still going to get that muscle, you are still going to get, the metabolic improvement and things like that. Everyone is different. We might hit maintenance levels sooner rather than later. And again, we can stay in our maintenance phase for as long as we want. If someone's happy with their current caloric intake, their weight is stabilized, and they are just, enjoying food, they're enjoying life, they don't really want any more food, then we can just stay there, and that's okay. It always comes down to someone's personal preference. Now, if you have certain goals, like you want to be powerlifting, well, we might want to increase, depending on what weight class, we might continue to increase calories. So that's something that I did, and we got all the way up to 222, and we were very aggressive. I think I put on about 20 pounds in 4 months. So I had quite a bit of body fat, but I was okay with that, and I was eating a lot of food, and the goal was just to lift as much weight as possible. Or the goal is to get on the physique stage. You might want to do a little bit slower of a reverse and really watch to make sure that you are not getting too above stage weight, right? You probably want to stay within 10-12% of your stage weight-wise. And so you aren't probably going to get super aggressive with your calories, and you're going to make sure that you are staying within that range. And so you might not get your calories as high as someone else, but the goal is different. So that all comes into play when we are trying to figure out how long we should be in it, how aggressive we should be. But like I said, I don't like to be super aggressive. I like to make sure that we are not really putting on a lot of body fat, but we are still increasing our calories over time with, I think, the goal of always just putting on muscle, increasing activity, increasing metabolic rate, are always good things that can be done. So overall, a reverse is never a bad thing. I think it is one of the great things that you can do for your body. Too many people, I think, are just so eager to diet when a lot more time should be spent in a reverse, building muscle, building your metabolic rate, and enjoying food, because that's going to, food's going to decrease, activity's going to go up, hunger's going to go up as you diet down, and it's usually not the most fun thing at a certain point, because you do have to say no to certain things. You can't eat certain things just because they're not going to fit within your macronutrients. So, at the end of it all, how long should you be in a reverse? I would probably say usually minimum 5-6 months, depending on where you're at. And again, that's so individualistic, but I would say minimum 5 to 6 months. And then you can kind of go from there. If you want to do maybe a mini cut, or like an 8 to 10 week cut, we could, you can do something like that and then get back into your reverse, or you can just hold at maintenance levels. There are just so many awesome things that you can do with it. So that's going to be everything for today, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, please hit that subscribe button down below. And as usual, if you have any questions regarding training, nutrition, exercise form, anything, just shoot me an email, tyler@prophysique.com. I would love to answer your questions. Or if you want to see any questions answered in future videos, you can either email them to me or just leave them down below there. I would greatly appreciate that. The goal is to educate you, so I want to know what you want to know about. All right, guys, have a fantastic Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you next week.